Good evening, race fans, and welcome to night 2 of the season premiere of Sunday Night Skippy Racing League action. We are coming to you live once again from Oulton Park Circuit. Just shy of 2.7 miles there in northwest England. And I'm joined tonight by new commentator Jason and Ian, maybe joining us eventually. We kind of sprung it on him, so we're hoping that he is able to pop into the session later, but wanting to get this out to everybody as soon as possible, we jumped at the opportunity, and we're excited to bring you Session B action from Oulton Park because I know the results, but at the same time, I don't know how it all unfolded, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this played out. Jason, welcome to the broadcast booth. Not for the first time ever, but for the first time as a broadcaster. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I've got myself a Founder's Breakfast Stout here, and I do not necessarily condone drinking alcoholic beverages on the regular, but you know what? This felt like a great night to do that, and I'm just here to have some fun and watch this great race that unfolded and do it with you because I'll tell you what, man, you've got some great insight. You've already raced this track. I mean, your race ended a little bit early last night, and I don't want to necessarily go into that. But
Me either.
You know, I value the perspective that you're going to bring, and you know, just the experience of having done the laps, because I did not, and that's always tough to call a race when you just don't have the experience. Oh, did we lose you?
You there?
Oh, there we go. Yep, we got you.
All right.
All right, we're rolling. We're cooking with gas. So a couple technological glitches that we're going to have to work through tonight. First of all, we are not going to be able to do replays. So with replay files, what I found is that you know, there's no marker that's kind of tracking time in the background for me to snap back to, you know, quote unquote live action. So we're just going to have to go with what we see in the moment. But at the same time, I think that we're still going to be able to see some great racing action, and with 12 drivers, we're going to be able to give these guys the airtime that they're due, and it's just really great to be able to provide that. I know that there was a little bit of actually this is actually a great opportunity as the drivers are going through their qualifying laps. Talk us through kind of the decision-making process that went into having two races simultaneously on Sunday night.
Yeah, so I had a panic yesterday when I was setting up the sessions, and we realized that there are only 40 available pit stalls at Oulton. And we have 60 drivers in the league, and with Oulton being a very popular track and a very free track that is taking place week one, we are kind of anticipating a pretty big turnout. So, you know, our biggest priority always is making sure that everybody's treated equal. The mantra since day one has always been that the is every bit as important as the guy in first. So to that end, we wanted to make sure that nobody was locked out of the session. So what we did is we set up two sessions, Session A and Session B. And what that did is give us space to make sure that everybody could race. In the past, we've taken a first come, first serve approach. The problem with that is everybody in the West Coast needs to cut their dinner plans short in order to make sure that they get a seat in the race. So going with two sessions helped us solve that. And what we did is everybody with an I rating of 1800 or higher was automatically in Session A. Anyone with an I rating of 1400 or lower was in Session B. And then anyone in between could pick. And so, yeah, that's how we split it up. And, you know, it was an 11th hour call, kind of a fire drill for you and myself and Ian yesterday, but it panned out. I think it worked.
Yeah, I think everybody was a little, not everybody, but there was some hesitation at first. But once people realized the implications of it all, everything kind of settled down, and it ended up being a really great night for everybody. It's one of those things we're probably going to look back on and look back and just kind of in a positive light. Obviously, it's not necessarily something that we want to be able to split the field every week, but for what it was on Sunday night when everybody got a chance to race and have some good close racing in both sessions, I think ultimately it was a net benefit for the league and some really quick thinking. And I'm sorry, I was trying to click through things as you were talking, but did we give credit to the person who originally came up with the idea?
Well, that person is my wife, Christy. We were
There you go.
sitting on the couch yesterday morning, and I was like, I'm really worried. If we have more than 40 people who want to join, there's going to be a lot of feels bad going around. And you know, you and myself and Ian, we crank on this stuff all the time, and sometimes we get traction. A lot of times we don't. And she was like, you know what? You guys should just do blah blah blah, and that's what we ended up doing. So
Yeah, and that's fantastic because you brought it to you opened it up immediately. Hey, anybody who's around, I've got this idea. Chrissy came up with it. Let's talk about it. And it just kind of went from there. And I'll be honest, I heard it and I was like, you know what? I've got no, I don't have any better ideas, and that sounds fantastic. So, hats off to Christy for coming up with it and you for broaching it. It's always tough because right off the bat that there's going to be, um, just some hesitation for anything different. But for a one-off thing, like I said, I think this ultimately is we're going to look back on that as a net positive for the league, and I think we, yeah, really did that. So sorry to transition really quick, but Jake made the astute observation that we are watching Jake do his qualifying here because it's his replay file, and therefore we don't have access to anybody else's view. So we're gonna follow Jake around the
and moral of
track
the
here,
story
and
is get your replay in when somebody asks.
there you go. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, if we end up doing this again, to get that replay file in early. I'll pull up. This is something that I don't think I did get to bring up on the broadcast night for the A session, was the track map, and we never really talked about any of the corners. I think I did bring up that Ian's favorite corner is number 12 there, Knickerbrook, which Jake is going to be approaching here in just a little bit, but
Yep.
this will give you a good sense of where we're at, and you can kind of get us. We'll just follow Jake around so you can get a sense of the speeds, the gears he's getting into. He's around the chicanes, and he is going through
Here it
turn
is.
10 there. That's Knickerbrook right there, which, as everybody knows, there was some demolition going on, and the explosions having, I guess, interrupted a canoodling session between a man and woman who ran off into the distance, and the construction workers who inspected the area afterwards found some ladies' underwear in the general vicinity. So that's why they call it Knickerbrook, and that's everybody's favorite. Although it is a very dangerous turn, especially in faster cars. It's hard to take it. It's just hard to take a dangerous turn seriously when you call it Knickerbrook.
That is
It's a
outstanding.
little on the
But I got to
nose.
go with you. That's my favorite corner as well. Great corner.
Exactly. So we'll just keep this up. Everybody can get a sense of kind of the layout of the track, and I'm really excited. Oh yeah, there we go. As the session ends, we're gonna bring that back down, and the gridding process will begin. We have. Well, I thought it was 12. I'm showing 13. Maybe somebody did not end up gridding that. Check it out. So congratulations. Actually, this is a good question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Jason, but Jake Ashe getting the pole position tonight. Is he in line for the bonus points?
Yes, absolutely. And
Outstanding.
yeah, and congrats to Jake. That's a fantastic time right there.
So I think we were following the right person around at the end of the day because there you see you got pole position Jake Ashe getting the bonus points. He'll start from the front of the field, and as I'm saying that, I can bring this up. Jake Ashe, Peter Lee getting the front row spot there as well. Robert Longitano, Carter Stickney, Pimluth, Andrew Cole. I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do. Cole W. Cole. I don't know why I keeps doing that. Ian Worrell. I give up. Jeff Fithian, Daniel Pagowski, Rich Butler, Barry Stockdale, and Oliver Hartley to round out the field. And we are about to go racing.
And what's awesome about that is those qualifying times are just stacked on top of each other.
Very, very close. So obviously not quite the sight of having 40 Skippies going into turn one, but at the same time, you'll love to see it because you know that this is where people are going to make it count. There's not going to be anybody kind of holding back and just waiting for people to wreck out or waiting to make their move. With only 12 drivers on the grid, every little bit counts, and it does look like already there's Jake Ashe, the pole position off into the grass. Jeff Fithian as well. We do have some and we have more folks making some departures going into what did that little double apex turn there? I know it has a name, but I'm blanking on it right now. Let's see. It's the Shell Oils corner right there. Had a little cheat sheet. So now Peter Lee is going to lead the field into the chicane with Robert Longitano, Carter Stickney. And actually, let me bring this up.
Yeah, that was a really clean start.
Yeah, all things considered, everybody was able to keep off each other, and I think that's the important thing. We do have a folks hanging off the back there, but anybody who got into or made a mistake was able to keep clear of the field. That's going to let Peter Lee into first here, lead the first lap. One would assume.
Next we have Robert a half a second back, and then Carter a half a second behind Robert.
Ooh.
Ian with a good save.
That was Ian drifting it around the corner there. And it is tough, we talk about these cold tires. These are some long sweeping turns, and it is tough to really maximize your speed around them. And I don't think some people realize on those cold tires, it's a very different feel to the car as opposed to when you have them heated up and worn in a little bit. It can snap
really
right
is.
around on you. You know what I mean? So, and we've got another car off the track. That's Pimluth.
But yeah, what's really tricky about Olton at any track, you really need to use all of the track to be fast. And what we'll notice, certainly coming down the straight and around a lot of these turns, the curbs are pretty minimal and in a lot of places completely non-existent, and it's very easy to drop a tire. And you've got to have your wheel right on the edge, or you're going to lose time to somebody else. But if you go over that line just a little bit, you're going to be cutting some grass with the car.
Yeah, we saw it a lot Sunday night on the A session, and they were not immune. Obviously, these drivers not immune, so it's a lot about just not making those mistakes. Really curious to see now with 12 drivers, that really calls into question what your pit strategy is as well. This isn't one of those normal ones where an undercut necessarily, to kind of clear traffic. is going to come into play. So this is one of the things that I don't know. I do know the ultimate results, but I don't know how it all plays out. And I'm really curious to see how the pit strategy plays into that, if at all. But I think that is a one really awesome positive change that Sunday Night Skippy has made going into season 5 is that double pit stop, um, you know, strategy. It brings so much into it, and I don't end. Oh, and we've got Robert Longatano off track. He's
Oh
gonna
no.
drop into 4th, if not more. Yep, yeah, he's gonna. Although no contact made, and there's who is that? A little further back now, Barry Stockdale off track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he might have been
tough corners,
reacting to
man.
Roberts off track, but yeah, they both live to drive. So
So yeah, so how did the 2 pit stop thing come about, by the way?
yeah, so that's something that I honestly, Ian, I think, is the first person that suggested it all the way back in season 1. And full disclosure, I was a huge naysayer. So yeah, it's a 40-minute race. You know, the racing should be the focus, not the pit stops. And then the subject kind of came up a couple more times, and then last season, Walter started incorporating it into his Friday practices, and it was an instant hit. Everybody loved it, and as we saw last night, and as we saw at Bathurst, it really opens up the undercut strategy. Despite the points changes that we've made, the points changes that we made for last season really dictated when you had to pit, and it almost took pitting or it almost took pit strategy off the table. So this reintroduces it while remaining compatible with those points changes. And I haven't heard any negative feedback so far. So I really enjoy it. Walter Sessions with the 2 pit stops are a blast. Uh, and I heard in Discord last night a couple of people who, some few remaining holdouts have come around. So I think it's going to stay.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a little more complicated for me,
I'm sure.
but at the same time, super exciting. I have had zero issues with watching that so far. The race right now is Peter Lee gaining a almost 2-second advantage now over Carter Stickney. Ian Worrell nearly equally back on Carter. Let's pull up real quick the lap times for Peter. And my overlay does not like the replay file version of that, so we're not going to do that.
Yeah, well, Peter's got a
All right.
52 and a half in there, and he's got the fast lap right now with Ian actually about 3/4 of a second right behind him. So
It seems like Peter's
he's got
race to lose
pace.
at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see coming. So as he clears the start finish line, turn 1, there's so much time to be gained or lost on the track right here. So you've really got to get that car off to the left, cut that corner as much as you can, and then don't go for the off track right there. In fact, where we saw Carter hit that is really the limit. He nailed that. So if you go much beyond that, you're going to get an off track penalty. But yeah, you've got to use all of that to be quick. And if you overshoot, then you really risk a spin.
We just had Andrew Cole pass Jake Ashe for P6. I'm sorry, Andrew up 1 position overall. Daniel Pagowski up 5 ahead of him there in the Maple Leaf number 27 machine. Oliver Hartley ahead of him up 9 positions overall. He's had a great night. Sure, he's super thrilled, but they've got quite a gap to make up to the podium so far. You've got Ian Worrell up 5 spots in P3. Carter Stickney ahead of him, up 3 spots in P2, and Peter Lee pulling away pretty comfortably right now in
Yeah,
that
so if I'm
number
Peter, I'm
24 car.
just keeping it clean.
And that's tough to do. That's
It
almost,
is.
to me, when I find myself out front, which is very rare, I almost find that more difficult to do than chase someone down. You got to really have that mental fortitude to hit your marks and without a reference in front of you to have a goal to go
Yeah,
after. So that's a whole discipline unto itself, leading a race, especially in the road discipline.
it really is. And when you don't have somebody chasing you, it almost gives you time to get in your own head. Your mind drifts. And I don't know if you've ever been walking down the street and you actually think about the act of walking, and all of a sudden it becomes a little more difficult. If you don't have somebody chasing you, or if you're not chasing somebody else, and you start thinking about walking, you might trip.
Well, folks, back here, this is a great battle going on, and I wanted to give Peter Lee his due, but Andrew Cole, Daniel Plagowski, Robert Longitano, and Jake Ashe just having a fantastic battle for that P5 position. Let's ride on board. Oop, I meant to do that with Jake, but here's Robert. There's Jake. Someone we're all familiar with riding along on board with. He's got a front row view to this battle.
Jake with a great line through there.
Yeah, look at that runoff, and you know that was something that Paul was talking about last night. The the draft, there just isn't it's a weird combination of a track where the straightaways are long enough where you would think the draft would have a huge effect, but it's not. It's really your exit off of the corner into those straightaways that really dictates how much of a advantage you have going on to those long straightaways. It's not so much the draft. So, Pete O'Brien always preaches prioritize the exit. And not being a road discipline guy, I gotta imagine this is one of those tracks where that just rings true. Get those runs off, and you can see here, like if you get a good run off of that turn, you can make some ground up. There's plenty of opportunities for that, but
yeah, and that's a big strategy through the two chicanes in this configuration of Olden. Is you're really doing your best to turn both of those chicanes into a single turn and just prioritize the exit out of that first kink. And if you can do that well, and the person in front of you doesn't, you'll get a really solid run on them.
and
So I'm
this
gonna
is really
go ahead.
yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so we have the brain behind the idea yesterday, and I'm going to seriously put her on the spot, and now she's giving me a look. But Christy, hit us with a profound question.
Honestly, my biggest question as I'm watching people going around the track is like the off tracks. Where are those enforced and where are they not enforced?
Wow,
That's a really good question.
You're opening up a can of worms here. I feel like even the drivers have that question sometimes on some of the tracks.
Yep. Ideally you'd be able to look at the white line and come to some sort of conclusions, but that's not always the case.
So, and again, I'm going to defer to Jason on this one, 100%. But they are determined. From what I understand, my frame of reference here for road racing is F1, and I've been following that for all of a half a season. But there's a governing body, the FIA, that will determine in real life, what the track limits are. And so iRacing takes a version of that and tries to decide, this is where we determine the track limits are, and where we're going to start penalizing folks. And sometimes drivers agree with that, and sometimes drivers don't. And it's not necessarily always the edge of the racing surface, as you would say, like that paved area. Sometimes they will extend it much further past, and sometimes they won't. And I don't know what the algorithm they use or the subjective, rubric, but that.
Yeah, so one of the first things I do at the beginning of every week, even if it's a track that I've raced before, because they can adjust the limits, not just from season to season, but even from configuration to configuration. In fact, at Barcelona, the track limits between configurations vary quite a bit. So unfortunately, the line is a guide, but you really need to go around the track and push it at all the corners and see what you can really get away with, and then you start working your way backward from there. A really good example is Nickerback, turn 12 here. The fast line through there is cutting that curb pretty sharply, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you can actually get the center line of the car over the curb without getting an off track. Now my guess is iRacing allows it because you get a pretty violent unsettling of the car if you do that, but you don't get a 1x. Whereas other corners, if you take a third of the car onto the curb, then it's an off track. So it's fun to make light of, but it's really not as inconsistent as I'm joking about. But you definitely have to find it for yourself. You've got to go out and discover where the true limits are, and then establish that in your head and race within those confines.
What about if you make like a mistake and you go way off track? Do you get a penalty for that, or they just assume that that's bad enough for you?
So it really depends on where, how, and how much. They have what they call game time checkpoints littered throughout the track. So if you cut a corner drastically, it's going to give you a slowdown, and you have to yield that time back within a certain amount of time, or you'll receive a stop and go penalty. So, but again, it's inconsistent. In fact, we just had Long Beach get released at the beginning of this season, and it was released with a huge corner cut available at turn 5. You could actually skip the entire off-camber portion of that corner, and it was worth at least a half a second. So they had to patch the track later in the week to close that loophole up. And so now if you take that same line, you'll get a pretty nasty slowdown penalty.
Great question, though. That's something that we struggle with all the time, and I'm sure it's not something that we've really ever covered on the broadcast and made very clear, especially to those. We've got a lot of family and friends and coworkers and all that watch, and not something we ever really truly addressed. And I don't know that we still did. It's all very subjective. So what else you got?
Well, it might be fun to talk about
what else can we stumble through is what I want to know.
Yeah, right.
That's the true.
So with the introduction of two pit stops, we in our league we do allow certain driver aids, and one of those is the automatic pit limiter. The Skippy doesn't have an actual pit limiter in the car, but the game does offer one, and it will trigger as soon as you pass the yellow cones, and it'll hold you, I think, about a mile an hour below the pit speed limit. But you can roll the dice, and you can disable that driver aid, and you can actually push that limit. You can run at the limit or even a hair above it. And the way iRacing calculates those penalties or speeding penalties is it looks at total time gained while in the pits over that limit. I'm butchering this explanation, but yeah, I just make this stuff up as I go. But it'll track how much you've gained and there's at some sort of threshold it's going to give you a penalty. And, Pete had an amazing strategy at Bathurst, but in one of his pit stops, he sped a little bit. He's one of the drivers that doesn't use that aid, and 99% of the time it works to his benefit. But he pushed it just a little too far, and it probably cost him the win.
What's this graphic you've got here with the yellow and the blue?
So this is it's not necessarily new. I tried to incorporate it a little more on the Sunday night race, but this is basically showing the pit stop strategy, how long each driver has been on that specific since their last pit stop. So for example, you'll see Peter Lee, he had 9 laps and then he pit, and now he has 1 lap since he pit. So you can kind of get it's a more visual, a graphical approach to what I show on the left-hand side. Let me bring that up right now, actually. Pit lap. So you can see 9, 8, 8, 8, 9, whatever. Same information, just a different way of looking at it. And then we've added how many spots total they've gained or lost through the course of the race. Right, what I'm showing up, actually, let me bring that up. That is pit lane time that I brought up on the timing tower now. So you can get a sense of how long it took them to get from the entry of pit road to the exit of pit road, and see that, Carter, I was able to make up quite a bit of time, 3 seconds, and that actually checks because Peter Lee was about 3 seconds ahead of the field when he pit, and so that pit stop for Carter actually was the difference between Peter being able to walk away with this and maintaining contact with that lead car. And so basically that bottom right, this is what I call pilot proof. This is a graphical, for those who are visual learners, to get a better sense of when people went into pit road.
So the times that they're in there, like I know in F1 that it has to do with how well the pit crew does, but obviously there isn't a pit crew. So like Hartley, did he just not take as much gas? Is that why he got out faster?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really interesting and what makes the pit strategy even more entertaining. You're really responsible for doing the fuel math and figuring out how much you need to take on. And now that we have 2 stops, when you come in for that first stop, what you do is heavily influenced by what you're planning for your second stop. And so you need to know how much fuel you're going to be taking on. Now, normally in your first stop, you're going to take on a full load, but the difference between what you have and what a full load is will impact what your second stop looks like. And of course, you can make a mistake. You can go in and fail to cut your fuel off in time and take too much, which will cost you precious time on the track, or you get a little too greedy and you head out without enough.
That would be unfortunate.
It's
Depends
happened
on
before.
who you are.
And so this is another graphic that we haven't used much, but each sector. So you can see the red dots along the track. Those dictate the sectors. And I usually stick to lap times, but this will give you more of a finite, granular resolution on if people are making up time on the person in front or behind them. You can see I am focused on Jake Ashe right now. He's got Robert Longitano ahead of him. Robert Longitano having much quicker times through these sectors as we go through them, and therefore pulling away from Jake Ashe. Let's do an example here with Carter Stickney, who's looking forward at the race leader Peter Lee, and you can see it's a much more even tail of the tape. So you can kind of see
Carter has
through
draft.
each.
We've got a race there.
Exactly. You've got instead of each lap, you kind of know where folks are gaining or losing time, and what parts of the track. And that's, like I said, you can see the start-finish line is the start of Sector 1, and then you just look at the red dots to get a sense of where each of those sectors are. But yeah, it's oh, sorry, I focused on Peter and I did not change this. There we go. So we'll just follow this around with Peter. You can see Carter much faster through Sector 1. And, well, maybe not much, but Carter was faster on Sector 1, slower on Sector 2, and slightly faster on Sector 3, so you can kind of see where they're gaining or losing time as they come down into the chicane. Jake Ashe making a comment, taking a light load first is actually his usual go-to strategy, not this time though, so, you know, to your point, how much you take on the fuel load, I do feel like you gotta, you go into, and this is why I'm so fascinated by it. I always ask this at the end of the race, and I'm sure everybody, yes, that's what she said. What everybody thinks about how they're going into the race and what they want to do as a strategy going in, and how that, oh, Carter, way off track.
Good save, though.
Good save, good save. Only loses one position to Ian. That's why I'm so fascinated by all this. I want to know what people are thinking going into it. Do they have a strategy going into it, or are they just kind of flying by the seat of their pants? And then once they get into the race, how do they make that decision of when am I going to pit and how much fuel am I going to take? Because
yeah, I usually fill all the way up only because I like to get my options open, but I'm very conservative when it comes to my fuel strategy. As a number of our members have shown, there is glory to be had in taking chances. But I definitely like keeping my options open for late in the race. I don't have the mind for strategy that some of them have, or even the speed in the racecraft that they have. So losing in some way, shape, or form in the pits is not an option for me.
Yeah, Christian brought up a great point. You know, there's no pit crew necessarily. It's all the same there, but I'm terrible at pit stops. It is so bad. I don't know what's wrong with me. But I know that it is one thing I need to work on, and it's not something you normally think of that you need to work on when you're racing, you know, in a simulator. Is the pit stop. So it's a really interesting twist on. Whoa, and we got another Robert Longitano off track.
Ooh.
Looks like he is able to maintain, though, no contact. Hopefully he's able to get back up there. What I was saying was, you know, it's just not one of those things you think about in making that, maximizing your time onto pit road, off of pit road, how much fuel you're going to take and when. All of that plays in, and one of the people that I see that does that fantastically is Pete Broughton, and you know, but for some bad luck and some other things, he's kind of nailed that, and I'd love to climb inside his brain, although that would be a scary ride. Just kind of figure out.
Yeah, let me know what you find.
No, yeah, exactly. How he does what he does, but he seems to have that nailed down pretty easily.
Yeah. Again, being really conservative, I tend to only change it up if I'm just stuck in traffic that I think is holding me up. But yeah, usually, if I'm fortunate enough to qualify in the top 5, top 10, then I'm just looking to see what the leaders do and follow their lead.
Well, you can see Peter Lee working himself back out to a very comfortable lead, although Carter went off track. Ian passed him, but we have a battle on our hands, I want to say.
And Ian is sporting a shiny new Reverb G2.
That's right. And you helped him through that, I know. I gotta imagine that has something to do with his success tonight. Currently running in P2.
Yeah, he said that since using that, he's a lot. It's much easier for him to identify his markers and hit them. So
What were those words you said? What does he have now?
he has a new VR headset.
So this is a live look on board Ian's G2. No, his. Yeah, there's a big discussion over, triples versus virtual reality versus whatever, but I was fortunate enough to get my hands on the G2 as well, and I've really enjoyed it, and it just kind of makes it, what Jason was saying about hitting your markers and kind of having that spatial awareness of where you are on the track. That's hard to. It's a big piece of the puzzle of how to get faster, I guess. And so a lot of people are good. There's some fantastic drivers who have a single screen on a 23-inch monitor in front of them who are able to do that. I'm not one of those people, unfortunately. And having that situational awareness and that spatial awareness for me is huge. And it looks like for Ian as well, because running in P2 tonight, I'm sure he's thrilled.
Yeah, his best is he's got the fast lap, if I'm not mistaken. The 151.6.
Yep, that checks. And he's gonna do pit stop. So second pit stop strategy coming into play here. Oops. That's not what I meant to do.
And that leads us to something else that having two pit stops has really put a spotlight on, is making sure that you practice your pit entries like you would practice any other corner of the track. Because if you're not hitting that entry with maximum efficiency and other people are, I mean, that's no different than blowing a corner on the track. And we're all figuring that out.
Yeah. We're riding along board with Daniel Pegowski here as he gets his pit stop, just to kind of get a sense of how frustrating it is to just kind of sit there and wait for your crew to get done refueling as you see everybody kind of cruising away on the track. But everybody's kind of going through that at the same time, so not too big of a deal. Daniel Pegowski currently running P9 up one spot. Come back up here to Peter Lee, who I believe this is Knickerbrook. Jake making a comment here on overall pit times. So I don't know about overall, but I can give you pit lane times, I believe, for the last round. Let me bring up pit lap. Alright. So we're going to get a little busy here. So that's pit lap, and that's pit lane time. So obviously everybody P1 through 4, well, now Carter's in, but ignore P1 through 4, but there you go, P5 through 12, that's going to be the second pit time. And you can see who had the longer pit stops. I'll just keep that up for the time being. And Lee, Cole, and Luth, the last folks to pit. We will see if they decide that this next lap is going to be their last. I don't know if you remember, Jason, but we had this discussion last night. What is the maximum number of laps you can do on a tank of fuel on this track in this car?
Oh gosh, I honestly have no idea. I do laps until GRT beeps at me. So
we were imagining is around 10, but only because everybody pit no later than lap 9. But that was a wild ass guess on our part. So I don't know. Great battle going here between Daniel Pagowski and Robert Longitano. Robert Longitano moving to the inside. He's got the position going into the turn. And, oh, man.
Stick. Robert got a really good line through there. He might have a run on.
Look at that.
Yeah. If he can get to the inside.
You can hear him lifting there just to try to get a good run.
It's a tough call.
I love
because
that.
It can be done, but do you want to go too wide through that chicane? Or it can be done, but it's risky. There's a lot of trust you're putting in yourself and the other person.
You can tell he's getting the better runs off the corners, and he's just trying to pick his way or pick his moment about when he's going to capitalize on that.
Now, if he can get that same run out of this last turn up here, we'll have the entire front straight.
He's lifting halfway down or 3/4 way down the stretch there.
And he might just be planning his exit just like that. If he can get this to stick.
Yeah, Jake making a comment. Pagowski's Skippy, it was very wide all night. I don't. I have nothing to counter that with, because Pagowski making no wrong. Like he's defending very well from what I can tell so far, at least what we've seen on the broadcast or what I've featured on the broadcast. So he's just putting his car in the right place at the right time. It's just fascinating to see Robert just trying to get a sense for when he's going to make that move. And we did talk about that on Sunday night, setting up a pass and having the time to set up a pass. With the shorter format races in the lower classes, typically you do get a sense of urgency, I'll say, in wanting to make a pass whenever you get an opportunity. But in our races, you do kind of have a moment to stop and think and say, okay, all right, well, let's do a lap or two with this guy and see where I got the advantage, and try to set that up. And that's exactly what Robert is doing here.
Yeah, and so what's interesting is the.
Sorry.
Oh, Robert.
Sad to see. And as we're talking, I apologize. Carter Stickney passes Peter Lee for the race lead. It does look like, I don't know what happened there. I was so intoxicated with that battle that I completely missed it. But Carter Stickney taking the lead and has a 1.6 second lead over Peter Lee now. Might have had to do with a pit stop there. Peter Lee having a 4-second slower pit stop. I got to imagine that's what's it. I don't see anything on the incident log for us, but 4 seconds when Carter was not trailing by nearly that much going into the pit lane. I got to imagine that's what's it. That's what's up. There you go.
And so what'll be interesting now is Carter's best lap is a 51.55. Peter's was a 51.92, but that was with Peter in clean air and Carter in the draft. So it'll be really interesting to see how they both race in this new order.
And now we got Ian riding on board his nose cone there with Peter Lee in front of him by only 0.25 seconds.
I'm really impressed with how clean the racing is. I've watched sat next to Jason while he watches a lot of crazy stuff happening in races, and it's impressive to see not
I got
that.
to imagine that Jason is a little bit jealous of how clean this racing is in the split, and I got to imagine a little part of him is kind of regretting that he didn't qualify for this race.
Yeah, this is a very, very good race. Somebody made a comment earlier. I think there's a lot of respect, and it's awesome to see that.
Yeah, this is fantastic. These guys, I mean, holy cow. The amount of room they're giving each other, but at the same time, we've seen some really great racing, and
Hmm.
I know it's just a great combination of the two things, and that's not to say that we didn't see that in the A split necessarily, but I think there's to use the same phrase that I used earlier, a sense of urgency there that doesn't exist here, where I say that and Ian gets within about a couple
You
centimeters
did
there
it.
of
I
Peter
didn't see
Lee, but
contact.
holy cow, nope, nothing.
Yeah.
But it's just
But no, you're right. You know,
this is
when
so
it
fun
comes
to
to that,
watch.
it really is. And when it comes to that lead pack, there is that sense of urgency because if you lose contact, you're just no longer in contention. So it does create this really crazy sense of urgency um, that entices you to take some risks.
Yeah, the crazy thing that I think about this is that all these drivers knew going into this race that the same amount of championship points were. Oh boy, and there goes Peter Lee.
Woo. Good save.
Holy cow, he's not going to lose much time, but that's going to allow
Well, he
Ian
stayed within the
into second
draft.
place. Wow.
Yeah, because the moment you lose your
I
back
told
end, you're not just thinking about keeping it on the track, you're thinking about keeping the toe. You're worried as much about that as you are going into the grass. Yeah, so for
now we
Peter,
got.
really no harm, no foul.
Yeah, he's right back up there. This is going to be a fantastic battle for the podium. Jake Ashe now 12, almost 13 seconds back. But he's got another comfortable. Ooh! Boy, Ian
Oh,
makes contact
wow.
with the gearbox of Carter
Uh-oh, he
Stickney.
loses the nose cone. That's a big old air scoop now.
I think we saw this with Walter, to be honest with you. I don't know exactly what
Oh, you
happened to
got it back.
Walter's car, but I think we saw him make nose to gearbox contact in the race, and his car just wasn't the same after that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm very interested to see what happens with Ian's car here.
It really affects your performance. With the detailed modeling that they do. Now, Ian did get his nose cone back. It does have damage. But if you lose it, yeah, the car just becomes an air scoop, and you definitely feel it.
A little further back, Pim Luth and Oliver Hartley having a great battle for P7. Pim up, I'm sorry, down one spot. Oliver up 7 on the evening. We are approaching our 45-minute mark here. We got 2 minutes to go, so I imagine not maybe this will be not the white flag lap. No,
Oh,
I can do math.
here we go. Does
Woo!
it stick? Got the inside line. If you touch him behind him, you might be able to take another shot at the next corner. Pim defends. So now if I'm Oliver, I'm thinking, how do I get out of this carousel with a great run?
Oh, or go into the carousel with a great run. Or, I'm sorry, chicane. Pim's got to really lock on the brakes there.
Those are great passing places because you're really putting the other driver to a tough decision. And that causes some drivers to kind of lock up. They panic. And that alone is all it takes to take the position. I'm certainly not saying that that's what happened with Pim right there, but putting the other driver to a tough choice is, yeah.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, and race fans of all kinds. We've got the white flag lap coming in, and we've got Ian Worrell now just 0.5 seconds back from Carter Stickney, and Peter Lee trails by 1.7 seconds nearly now in the final podium position. All right, Chrissy, what do you got for the final result here? What's your or wait, do you know who wins?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so who do you got? Do you got Carter or do you got Ian?
I'm gonna go
Peter?
with Ian simply because I know him a little bit.
Okay.
I will be going with Carter because he has a nose cone.
Ian got his back.
Oh, we got a little bit of a lock up there.
Uh-oh.
They come down to Knickerbrook. They're going to make the sweeping turn. Ian's got to get a good exit here because there is only one real final turn left to get a good exit on.
Yeah, this is it. He really needs the inside of the last turn.
Is he going to get it?
Carter defended it very well.
Not look like it. Carter's gonna come in first. Ian.
Wow.
Peter Lee follows in a close second. Woo! Here comes Jake Ashe.
That's a great paint, Jake.
Andrew Cole in P5. Oliver Hartley's gonna bring home P6, up 7 spots total. Great finish for him. Pim up, down 1 spot to P7, but overall a great race. Jeff Fithian in P8, Daniel Pagowski coming around the final turn. The Maple Syrup Machine in P9. Robert Longatano had a great race going. Oh, I feel for him. In P10 though, overall, Barry Stockdale and Rich Butler come down the backstretch there. Actually, where is... there's Rich Butler. I do like that paint scheme. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah.
But... Oh, did Jake try the... Oh, there's a parade. All right. Then an air show. All right, let's do
they
this.
got the jump.
We've got a blimp. Sticking with Jake. Oh, Jake ran out of gas.
It's always a tough call. Do you go for the jump or do you
yeah.
go for the result?
Apparently. There we go. All the guys in the B split decided, you know what? That was a ton of fun. We're gonna form up. We're gonna do a parade lap.
That is great.
I love this. I really love this. I don't think we've ever seen this since Sunday Night Skippy.
No, usually by this point we're destroying each other.
I was gonna say, don't you guys all crash at the end of
Yeah. This is way too civilized. This is way off brand, guys.
That's awesome. Oh, my audio.
Yeah, I'm sad to say I actually practiced my jump more than I practiced my pit entry. Because if you hit that jump just right, You clear the track, the fence, all of it.
Carter Stickney, not even doing donuts. Surprising. All right. Carter going into the pits. Bring it down into the chopper view here. This is Rich
This is gonna be
Butler.
epic. If they all hit this.
I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
I know. I'm a Twitter with anticipation here.
I see Jake in chat, so I'm so tempted to ask him to spoil it just a little bit. Does it work out? Does it not? I'm on pins and needles here.
I'm still waiting. Show us the way. 3.
All right, here we go. Almost cleared it. Daniel got over it.
Oh.
Hey, right side up.
Daniel wins the prize. Up here's Robert.
Damage, though, apparently.
Oh boy. Well, huge congratulations to Carter Stickney there for the first place.
Good stuff, everybody. This was fun. Drivable.
All right. Carter Stickney with the win. Ian Worrell coming in second place, and Peter Lee finishing out the podium in P3. We got Jake Ashe P4, Andrew Cole, Oliver Hartley, Pim Luth, Jeff Fithian, Daniel Pikowski, Robert Largantano, Barry Stockdale, and Rich Butler finishing out the field for our B split. And I gotta tell you, that was a ton of fun. I'm really glad that we did this.
Yeah, that
Holy
I'm
cow.
really glad that it worked out. Thank you, Christy, for the idea. And Chris, to answer your question again from earlier, do they get the bonus points? And so for everybody who's watching, what that pertains to is we had 24 laps, I think, in this race. So what we'll do is we round that up to the nearest number divisible by 5. So that takes us to 25. We divide it by 5. And so everybody who led 5 laps gets a point. If you led 10 laps, you get 2 points. 15 laps, you get 3 points, and so on. So that is on top of the championship points that you get for your result.
I like how Peter is still trying to drive his
Riding the
car
rail.
in midair. That is awesome.
Yeah, I think in a pinch, this worked out really well. There have been some other ideas. Chris, you've mentioned the tournament settings that we could use in the future if we see this coming with a little more notice. It might be interesting to run some sort of qualifier to get into the main, something that everybody has a fair shake at. But I'd also be really curious to hear everybody who was in either session. What did everybody think? The general feedback that I've seen in Discord seems positive, but sometimes the dissent is hidden and unnoticed. So
Yeah, exactly. I don't think SNS has ever made it a mystery that we're open to the feedback and all that. But at the same time, Chris, fantastic idea, first of all, and second of all, sometimes it's tough. It's tough to sell it even because it's different. And at the end of the day, I'm glad we went through it though, because got to do this, and I'm very thankful for that. So yeah, You know what? This is something we do for fun. At the end of the day, it's a simulator or video game, whatever you want to call it, and I'm glad that people take it seriously enough to want to participate and put the work in and compete. But at the same time, like this is something that's fun for all of us to do. Not the real world is tough. The real world is tough, and this is a way for us to all find folks who are interested in something that is not the real world and enjoy it together. Maybe that's the best way to put it. This is supposed to be a fun experience for everybody, and the fact that everybody got to participate and have a good time, I think, is an overall win. And I think that moving forward, that should be the goal for any decision that we ever make. And I'm excited to be a part of this group of folks, like-minded people who I didn't know at all before this time last year, and now I spend a lot of time with, and it's just kind of crazy to think about. So, thank you all
Yeah,
for
I mean,
that.
it feels like so much time's gone by, but yeah, we've been at this a year now. Um,
Crazy.
yeah, yeah, it's absolutely insane. I have it on good authority. We have somebody in the interview standby. Um,
Oh, we do.
yeah.
Oh, we do. I was not even paying attention. So we have, uh, let's see, E4 finisher, pole position winner, and bonus points gainer, Jake Ashe. Jake, welcome to the broadcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm not bad at all, and appreciate you letting me, have this and showing up. And it was a great broadcast so far. So, I was
Yeah,
excited watching you watch the race.
I was excited to watch the race. I'm honest with that. That is, I'm not gonna say, well, no, yeah, I'm not gonna make comparisons, but that was a lot of fun. Let's just put it that way. And
It was.
it was great to see the amount of respect that y'all had for each other, and just kind of the atmosphere was fantastic. It seemed to be, and
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't think that race is gonna give the stewards much work. If
No,
I could be wrong. We
no.
may have missed something, but holy cow, and some of that is the fact that there's only 12 race cars, but at the same time, some of that is, you all seem to really embrace the spirit of what the league is, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. Talk us through, though. We're getting philosophical here. What I want to know, though, is tactically, what were you thinking through the race? You started on pole, which you have not done in a Sunday night Skippy race before. So when you
I've only
got
done it
that,
in
what were you? What?
Sorry.
Yeah, no. What were you thinking? Like, talk me through that. That's gonna be like a holy crap moment.
It really was. I was, I was doing my best to make sure I got 4 full laps in, because with only 10 minutes of qualifying time, you have to get out there and get going to get 4 laps in. And I was concentrating on keeping them clean. I was concentrating on, because you get into X and it takes away that lap from you. So I was really not looking at making it go fast so much as just getting it done. And as a side effect of getting it done and getting it done cleanly, it happened to go fast. And as I crossed the line on that last lap, my spotter said, "That's pole." I'm like, really? And who else is going to cross in the next? And then the session ended. So that was my thought process there. And so then the pressure started mounting.
So then you pitted out your shirt and you started sweating, and then you went into it. But that's awesome, though. That's a fantastic experience. I don't think that one that I've ever will ever be able to get the chance to attain. What was your strategy then? So I got to imagine your mindset going into this race just a little bit different than the normal Sunday night Skippy race. You got a pole position. You're in command of the field. Does your mindset change, or did you go into it with your same, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I'm sticking to this, or did everything go out the window at that point?
Well, no, earlier in the weekend, I had been specifically doing cold tire practice through turn 3. And so I knew that I had been doing that. I was feeling pretty good about it. And I got there and turned the car, and it just didn't turn in. I got to that, and the tires were apparently colder than I thought they were because we'd been sitting on the grid. And I'd been practicing cold tire practice straight out of the pits. And I think the sitting on the grid time may have cooled them down a little more than I was ready for this time. And so I got there and turned where I would normally turn in, and it just went straight. So then at that point, as soon as it didn't turn like I wanted it to, my goal became keep it going the direction of the track and don't hit anybody else. And so I did a little bit of rallycross and got back in. Fortunately, didn't lose too many spots. I mean, it was a fight from there back to where I got to. But like I said in the chat earlier, Daniel Pagowski was challenging to get past. He was very good at defending all night, and I had to get past him a couple times, and that was fun. I mean, and Andrew Cole, I shouted him out in the chat earlier, but he also is a really good racer, and he pushed me really hard to be able to keep him behind me. And I also think my pit strategy helped a lot with this because the first time through I did take the full, filled up all the 1.9 gallons, and then the second stop I did the math as I got to the stall to see exactly how much time was left, how much time I got per gallon, and then added a little bit because I was afraid they were going to do an extra lap, and I'm glad I did because they did. They crossed the line just before the time flipped over, so I basically added a whole 2 minutes. And I sputtered. That's why I didn't get to do the parade lap. I sputtered as I crossed the start-finish line. So
it's unnerving when that happens, when you realize that it was that close.
Yeah. I guess there it is.
Yeah, not to rub it in, but you're talking about it, so we want to talk about it. But absolutely. It was after all of that, you still ended up P4. That there's, to me, we talked a lot about on Sunday night about just the mental fortitude of those early mistakes, and how do you shrug that off and just focus on what you need to do to work your way back up, because these are 45-minute races and there's 2 pit stops. A lot can happen. We've seen a lot happen. We saw on Sunday night, Edwin Virino comfortably in the lead, and all of a sudden not so much. You know what I mean? So you talk about turn 3 and they're like, oh shoot, it's all over. But at that point, it's not. It's a 45-minute race. You got 2 pit stops and you gotta just keep digging. So what is that something that's easy to do for you, or is that a challenge?
It was a bit of a challenge. At this point, I was still recovering, feeling pretty decent about the fact that I got it back on track in one piece, and so there were, a couple laps later, I did have to slow myself down because I felt myself, pushing a little too hard, trying to get, back up in the mix, and I had to settle myself down and say, this is a long race. Let's run a marathon and not a sprint. And so but it's, I'm always trying to concentrate on everything that's going on, and that is a little bit of a challenge for me sometimes, just generally speaking. But I try to keep my eye on the next thing, and once I got out of traffic, I turned the Delta on and used that as my guide to help compare myself to myself and nobody else, and that helps me, sort of rein things in.
Yeah, if I find myself running without that Delta, I lose time. Especially if you're alone on the track, that's the only thing that's really available to push you.
Yep. And but if I'm in traffic, though, I will pay too much attention to the Delta and make mistakes and hurt other people. So I like it off when I'm anywhere near anybody else.
Yeah.
But I've got a handy dandy button that flips it on and off easy.
A lot of sense, man. Well, hey, congratulations. I'm sure some nice points in the bank for you going into the season, and overall a really nice job well done, I should say.
Thank you.
And yeah, great to have you on here. And any last thoughts before we let you go?
Nope, I appreciate it. Looking forward to next week at Long Beach, and I'm excited about it. I've been already doing a little bit of practicing on it and trying to hone it in. So thanks a lot. see y'all next week.
Congrats, Jake.
See you later, man.
Thanks.
All right, there was Jake Ashe, your P4 finisher, and let's bring in now Carter Stickney, who was up 4 positions total for the night, able to bring home the win. Carter, what was your plan going into the race? How did you see it unfold? Just talk us through what you saw.
Hello, gentlemen. How do you read me?
Hey, Carter.
Loud and clear, 5x5.
I typically count on my typical strategy is to be consistent. I don't necessarily have the race pace that the other drivers have. So look for consistency, and attrition is my strategy. So that and a good pit stop strategy. I like to thank Walter Collada for teaching me how to calculate and bill appropriately. I'm pretty much manual control, so I am using a mouse in the pits, and I just shut off my fuel flow when I get to the number of laps left, and that's how I did tonight.
Yeah, it
Well, it
seemed to work
worked.
out for you very
It
well.
did
Yeah.
work, yes. I think I had a 1/10 of a gallon left at the end of the race.
Well, yeah, okay, so then just barely. So did
Yeah.
you, going into it, you started, I guess P5 then. What was your thoughts? Are you the type that plans your race out, or do you just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna take the race as it comes to me and figure it out? I know you said you were a fan of consistency and all that, and that's great, but at the same time, you got two pit stops planned.
Right.
Or not, or just figure out as you go along. So what is it? Is it planning, or are you just you're doing the Maverick
For
thing?
these
Going...
for these races, we're pretty much spread out a fair amount back in the back of the pack, so I run it almost all the way out of gas for the first pit stop. I don't necessarily need to plan an undercut or an overcut or anything like that. If I was in traffic, I might tend to pit a couple of laps earlier, but I haven't had that issue yet. So I've just been running it to the last lap for the first pit stop, and then just filling accordingly for the second. And then, just stay relaxed in the beginning. And as you may have noticed, we were all pretty low key for this particular race. It was pretty friendly from the get go.
Yeah, that's one thing that really stuck out to me is especially the fact that everybody joined up for a formation lap at the end. That was really
Group
cool to
jump.
see. It was really cool to see, like that I think that captured to me that captured the spirit of what the league was intended to be in the first place. And it was just as much as there was some confusion and all that over the decision to split it into 2 races, and give everybody an opportunity to race. I'm really glad we did it, because I'll tell you what, this restored some faith in the humanity of the league. Not that I needed it, but
Right.
it was
Well,
like it's a good league overall, and it's well run. But it was just so cool to see. I hope the A Split guys are watching this and just like, hey, yeah, this is what it's all about, fellas.
I think that everybody wants to get a chance to race at Olton Park because it's such a fun track. It's got great flow, and
Exactly.
it races really well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a good track.
Well,
Chris,
hey,
thank you very much, and
congratulations.
thanks to Cavalcade Network. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's our pleasure, and congratulations once again on the first place points. I hope you can continue the success moving forward. And yeah, man, you got any last thoughts before we let you go?
Thanks to Lenovo Legion for hardware support, and thanks to Jason and all the race stewards for keeping it fun and fair, and thanks to Cavalcade Networks.
Well, I appreciate it, man. We will see you next week, next Sunday, and look forward to it.
Thank you,
Yeah,
fellas.
congrats on the win, Carter.
Thanks, Jason.
As your race winner, Carter Stickney, awesome to hear from him. Very excited. I don't know. That was just a fun race to watch. And
It was.
before
That parade lap was so cool.
It was really cool. Like, that is what I'm getting at, man. That is the
Yeah.
that is just really cool to see the camaraderie there between all the drivers. There's a lot of respect throughout the race, but a lot of clean racing and and pushing each other throughout it as
Yeah.
well. So it wasn't like, oh, after you. They were pushing each other, but at the same time, at the end of the night, they realized what this was is just some folks getting together to race hard, and uh, they were able to enjoy it. So really cool to see. Hey, before we get going though, Christy, thank you so much for joining us and asking those questions. It's very refreshing to get the outside perspective, and I know from my point of view, I appreciate it because we have a lot of folks who watch who just they're watching because their friends, family, coworkers, etc., are watching. They may not have that personal iRacing experience background. So, I don't mean to be saying things that don't make sense, and it was just a very refreshing perspective from you. But do you have any last thoughts before we go into next week on the race, on the league? Like, what is your point of view on the Sunday Night Skippy and how we're doing?
Honestly, I love watching it. I mean, I can't watch it while Jason's racing because honestly, it sort of makes me ill, but I like watching the replay later.
That's
You
fair.
always do a great job with the broadcast, and thanks so much for letting me be on here. It was great.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you very much again for joining us. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you can join us again. Eh, But yeah, and really, so Jason has had his fair share of bad luck in the league, but he does a fantastic job of running it, and to his credit, I think it w- he's often put in the position that nobody wants to be put in. He makes the tough decisions, and I think despite what some frustrations may come out of it, we're all the better for it because here we are. Look at this. Look at where we're at. I just want everybody to just kind of take a step back, take the 30,000-foot view, and realize that look at where Sunday Night Skippy is. Look at where it started. Look at where we are right now, and that is in no small part thanks to Jason Bice, and in a great time to have that happen in a pandemic and uncharted waters. We have a outlet for a bunch of us to be able to come be with people who have a shared common interest, who like competing, and in a forum that allows us to share ideas and commiserate with each other and celebrate each other and do all that. That is that's just huge. That's just huge, and that's all in your own time. That's not your job. That's not what you get paid to do. Um, so yeah, just want to say thanks. And do you have any last thoughts before we go into next week?
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I know I've said this before. It's certainly not lip service, but I really appreciate the work that you put into this, and the stewards, Jeffrey, Don, and Walter. Ian's help. There are a lot of people that are contributing to this, and I've really enjoyed it. Not just the racing aspect, but doing my part in helping run the league. That itself has been a really nice, welcome outlet. And like you said, this came along at a perfect time. We had no idea when we were kicking this off a year ago that this was going to become the lifesaver that it has. Um, so thanks to everybody, including everybody who's driving with us. I think we have an incredible crowd. Um, and what I really like about it is there's a lot of passion, and sometimes that passion comes out in different ways. And what I like is sometimes tensions run high, but at the end of the day, we get over it, we race, and everybody's just looking for the best idea, and they want the league to be as good as it can be. And I think everybody races with a tremendous amount of respect for each other. That's why we created the league. I think Ian's talked about this a number of times. There are a lot of good public races to be had out there, but I don't think the respect and the quality of driving can really be found as a consistent basis as can be found in leagues like Sunday Night Skippy, the 2K Cup, and several others. So these are really good places for people who want to race respectfully and grow and get to know the people that they're on the grid with. So that's what I really enjoy about it. I like knowing the people that I'm racing with. That adds a completely different angle to it. So
Yeah, this has exceeded all of my expectations, and I'm super happy to be in any small way. And I just want to say, thank you to Christy for letting Jason do this. I know that probably doesn't get said very often, but I'm sure there's a lot of times where you're like, where is Jason? And he's dealing with this stuff, and it's, I understand that it may not always be the easiest thing, but what he's doing is um, bringing a lot of joy to a lot of people, and so we appreciate that. We appreciate your support as well, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I hope that we get to continue this for years to come, and when the pandemic ends, maybe we can even do expand that even more going forward. But yeah, the Bice family is much appreciated in my life over the past year, and that's not something that I thought I would have said a year ago. I didn't even know who you guys were, so it's
I'm just
thanks to
thankful he's
Jason.
got an outlet.
So
He's
right,
not getting
exactly.
bored and driving me out of my mind.
There you go. Okay, perfect. It works out. It
all
works
worked
out for
out.
everybody. Exactly right. Yeah. No, you guys are awesome, and yeah, we appreciate you. So, well, with that being said, I don't want to belabor the point, and I think it's just been a lot of fun. So we will say goodbye for now. We will see you next Sunday night. We will not be doing split races, but I'm looking forward to a full field of shenanigans next Sunday night with everybody racing together once again with all the championship points in play. I will say I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my level best. I know we've got holidays coming up this week, but I want to do a full recap of the new rules. I want to do, just kind of an introduction to people. We have new viewers from what I've been told, so just almost like an intro to Sunday Night Skippy, intro to iRacing. I'll do my level best to get that out there and make sure that everybody who's watching has as much understanding as they need to be able to enjoy it, in addition to watching their loved ones out on the racetrack. So we will see everybody next Sunday night. In the meantime, happy holidays, whatever you may or may not celebrate. I wish you all the best to you and yours, and we will see you in a few days. Yeah, that's all I got. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for all you do, Chris.
Bye.